Good morning. Today we are going to discuss the histology of uterine tube and uterus. First discuss the uterine tube. Uterine tube, this is this bilateral portion related to the lateral side of the uterus, attached to the lateral side of the uterus. This uterine tube is subdivided further into different parts. First part is the portion which is entered inside this wall of the uterus. This part is known as the intraluminal part. Part just lateral to this is the isthmus, this narrow portion. Then it gets dilated further laterally, and this dilated portion is known as ampulla, and finally this terminal end, which is known as infundibulum. And this infundibular portion, this has this multiple finger-like portion, is known as fimbria. And these fimbria, they are related to the bilateral portion of the ovary. And these are the portion which picks the secondary oocyte just after the ovulation. So during that period, this secondary oocyte, they are lying in this lumen of the uterine tube. So that's why, and here only the fertilization also occurs. So this uterine tube harbors this secondary oocyte as well as the fertilized ovum or the embryo up to their transportation into the uterine cavity. So they are accordingly modified. Their histology is accordingly modified. So first thing, they are mucosal folds. So this mucosa in the fallopian tube, it is folded, thrown into multiple folds. And because of this fold, this appearance in the cross section is like a honeycomb appearance. And these are in contact, these folding are in contact with this secondary oocyte or the embryo, providing it nourishment from all the sides. So how it occurs? This lining epithelium, this lining epithelium is a simple columnar epithelium, and the interior, the core, is of richly vascularized lamina propria with loose connective tissue, very richly vascular. And just outside this is this muscularis, well developed muscularis, having this inner circular layer and outer longitudinal layer. And even this muscular layer, it is richly vascular, richly vascular, very rich vascularity in the lamina propria and even the this muscle layer. And as we know, fertilization occurs in the that portion, dilated portion, which is known as the ampulla of the uterine tube. Then this embryo, it gets transported through this uterine tube into the finally into the this cavity of the uterus. Now this outside this muscle layer is the lining of the peritoneum. Since it is covered by the peritoneum on all the sides, and this is the outermost covering, which is the lining of the peritoneum, that is serosa. So here it is also evident the outermost covering, this is serosa. This is this flat epithelium, mesothelium, resting on the connective tissue. Just anterior to that is the muscle layer, inner circular and outer longitudinal, and very richly vascular portion of the connective tissue in which they lie. And just anterior to this is this mucosal fold, having this honeycomb or labyrinthine appearance. And this fold they, if we follow the course of the fold, they only branch. They only branch. They only branch, not anastomosing with each other. It contrasts to that of the seminal vesicle. There was a mucosal fold, but there was the pattern which was branching and anastomosing. Here the pattern is branching, but not anastomosing. So that's how this lumen, because of this fold, the lumen is very much obliterated, very obliterated. And these folds, they are not uniform throughout. These mucosal folds, they are very much abundant in the initial portion, the ampulla. And as we progress towards the uterine portion, towards the uterus, in the intramural part, this is absent. The folds are absent because they are now similar to the lining of the uterus. The folds are absent in the intramural part. So this is the appearance in the higher resolution. Here you can see this lining epithelium, which is the simple columnar epithelium on the left side in the lower resolution, and the core is the lamina propria, which is loose connective tissue and rich vascularity. Now this mucosa is formed into folds, forming this labyrinthine or honeycomb appearance. And outside this is this muscle layer. And on the right you can see this in the higher resolution, and here again we can see this simple columnar epithelium, and the core is of this loose connective tissue and fibroblastic cells, and very much rich in the vascularity. So this is the lamina propria. Now these are their appearance in the higher resolution. As we know, because of changes in the ovarian cycle, that again influences the lining or their behavior, because of the changes in the ovarian cycle and the hormone they produce. Estrogen initially in the this follicular phase, because of this uniparenchyma, and later on, after the evolution, this temporary undefined body is formed, which is known as corpus luteum, and because of that, it produces the progesterone. So, initially, it is influenced by the estrogen, and later on, it is influenced by the progesterone. So, here on the left is again shown in the lower resolution, and you can see how this simple columnar epithelium is not uniform flow. It is made of two types of cells. Some of the cells, they bear cilia on their apical surface, and there are some another type of cells which is again simple columnar type of cells, but they don't have any cilia. They are non-ciliary, but they have this secretion. They are secretory cells. They secrete this nutritive portion which provide the nutrition to the secondary oocyte initially, and then later on to the fertilized portion and to the this embryo. So these are the secretory cells, also known as PEG cells. Here it is shown how, because of the cyclical changes in the ovary, this mucosa, this lining epithelium also modifies. So during this initial phase, during the follicular phase and initial part of the luteal phase, this portion is more active in the initial part of the just after the ovulation. So since it has to provide the nourishment to the secondary oocyte or the embryo, these cells, they enlarge and their secretion they are more elaborate. Even the cilia they are more prominent. So increasing the number of cilia, increasing the number of cells, and increasing their secretion. That is because of the initial phase of the uh, under the influence of the corpus luteum or the progesterone and estrogen. But later on, in the late phase, when their secretion declines because now the corpus luteum is replacing, there is a diminution of the secretion, diminution of this cilia. So here you can see how these are the ciliated cells, this is prominent cilia, and these are the pec cells, and it is prominent secretion. Here you can also see, but the cilia are diminished, and even the secretion is diminished. The applied aspect related to these, since we know this portion is where the fertilization occurs and in this embryo it gets transferred to the uterine cavity. If we clamp or block that portion through the either cutting these or clamping these, you can prevent this fertilization event altogether, implantation of the embryo into the uterine cavity, and that is the basis of the tubercle. Also, because of certain pathology, there may be occlusion of the tube altogether, uterine tube, that is known as blockers, tubal blockers. So, this is the tubal occlusion. That condition again, this fertilized oocyte or the embryo, they don't get implanted into the uterine cavity. So, that again lead to infertility, and that may also even lead to ectopic pregnancy. In this fertilized portion, this embryo it is implanted elsewhere, and that condition known as immotile cilia syndrome. As the name implies, there is an immortality of the cilia in that condition, and that is a collection of syndrome that includes bronchiectasis because the cilia or that portion in the lung, in the respiratory epithelium, they don't move the cilia. So because of that, there's bronchiectasis, even the sinusitis is there. In case of embryonic condition, there is situs inversus may be there. But here, in case of uterine tube, the cilia they don't beat towards the uterine cavity to move this embryo towards the uterine cavity for implantation. So that may also cause infertility, and that is Carter-Jenner syndrome or immotile cilia syndrome. Next, we will discuss the uterus. Now, because of this lateral attachment of this uterine tube, we can subdivide the uterus into various parts. The part just above this attachment of the uterine tube, this is known as the fundus. The part below this is known as the body, and the stapling portion, which is near this portion of the vagina, this portion is known as the cervix. So there are three parts: the fundus, the body, and the cervix. Now, in this section, the uterus, you can see how there are three concentric layers. The outermost layer is this perimeter, and this perimetrium is the layer which is in continuity with the ligaments which are attached to the uterus, and it is mainly serous, and mainly it is the peritoneal covering which covers it. Since we know it is anteriorly in continuity with this pouch which is known as the vesicouterine pouch, and posteriorly the continuity is known as this rectouterine pouch. So this superior surface, anterior and posterior surface, they are covered largely. Only this inferior portion, anterior and posterior, they are not covered. So This is covered all around by the serosa except these portions which are covered by the adventitia. So the outermost line covering is of mesothelium resting on the connective tissue. Anterior to that is the muscle layer, a very thick tunic of highly vascular smooth muscle layer, and that is divided into three portions. There is the innermost layer which is longitudinal, there is the outermost layer which is again longitudinal, but in between is the circular. So middle layer is circular and inner and outer layers are longitudinal, and this layer, this middle circular layer, it is richly vascular. This is the layer. As you can see, this is the layer where these arteries they penetrate and they form this anastomotic artery known as the arcuate artery. Now anterior to this is the layer which is in relation to the uterine cavity lining the uterine cavity. This layer is known as the endometrium. So lining here is the simple columnar epithelium, and the core is formed by this lamina propria which is rich in fibroblastic cells, highly cellular, and the ground substance that is rich in type 3 collagen fibers. Next, before discussing this histology of the uterus, we should again revise this cyclical changes which are occurring in the this ovarian cycle, and because of that also influences the lining epithelium of the uterine cavity. So as we know, under the influence of this FSH, the follicles grow. Under the influence of this pituitary hormone, these follicles they grow. So initially these follicles they grow and they form this Graafian follicle. So because of these follicular changes, this outer layer, this outer layer, which is this outer tunic portion, that secrete this estrogen. So as we know, this uh, follicular phase, this theca interna, they produce this androstenedione, and that is converted by the granulosa cell into estrogen. And under this initial phase, this estrogen, the amount of the estrogen, they increases. Now we count the cycle starting from the first phase of the menses. So initially, under the influence of this FSH, the follicular cells, follicle they grow and these form the Graafian follicle, and that is the peak of the formation of the estrogen. Then, roughly at this initial phase, so initially this first 4 days, these are the initial phase of the menstrual cycle, menstruation portion. Then after that is the follicular phase, which lasted for around 10 days, 8 to 10 days. Then around 14 days, there is the ovulation, the secondary oocyte is released, and this portion is folded, forming this corpus luteum, the temporary endocrine organ. So starting from this 14 days onward up to 28 days, around 14 days, this phase is under the influence of this secretion by this temporary endocrine organ, the corpus luteum. So here now because of luteinization, the granulosa lutein cells they produce the progesterone. So after the cell surge, the evolution occurs and this temporary endocrine organ is formed and they start producing the progesterone. So these phase from this 15 days to 28 days. This phase is known as the luteal phase because it is under the influence of this corpus luteum. Then after that, if there is no fertilization and no implantation, and there is no HCG form, secretion. This corpus luteum of menstrual cycle this regresses, and also there is a regression of this hormonal activity. So the hormonal activity ceases. So it also influences the lining of the uterine cavity that we will discuss. So this is the lining. So uterine endometrium is lined by this simple columnar epithelium, and this simple columnar epithelium this invaginates into the underlying lamina propria, and they form these glands. So the layers they are divided into two. This outer two-third portion, this is known as the functional layer, and all stratum functionalis, and this inner portion vicinity to this myometrium. This is known as the basal layer, and basal layer is a layer which shows least activity during this hormonal changes. In fact, this is not influenced at all by the hormonal changes. So there is a basal layer in vicinity to this muscle layer, and this outer layer which is known as the functional layer. Now this lining epithelium, which is a simple columnar epithelium, that is not, in fact, throughout is not similar. They consist of again two types of cells. One is the segregated cells and one is the secretory cells. And these secretory cells which produce a secretion, again nutritive secretion. Then this lamina propria, there is a difference in the lamina propria and both the layers. In the basal layer, this lamina propria is more cellular, more cellular. So it consists of more fibroblasts and less term substance with respect to this outer functional layer. This outer functional layer it is less cellular and consists of less ground substance, matrix less. The gland, this lower part of the gland are in fact what? They are invagination of this lining epithelium into the lamina propria, and this most of this part they are lying in this functional layer except this lower part. This lower part they are lying in the basal. And vascularity. Vascularity, as we know, this middle circular layer in the myometrium. Here there is an osmotic channel which is formed known as the arcuate artery. And from this arcuate artery, a radial artery emerges which supplies this endometrial part. And this radial artery they are subdivided into two set of arteries. First artery they are known as straight artery, and they are small, and they supply this basal layer. Second set of arteries which are known as the spiral artery, and these spiral artery they are those which are under the influence of progesterone. They are they are divided, they divide and they proliferate under the influence of progesterone. So multiple branches and arterioles are formed, and even they are terminal. They dilate and they form this lacuna. These vascular lacuna, which are further then drained by the venous portion. So that's how this outer portion is richly vascular. This outer portion is richly vascular. So again, this vascularity from this arcuate artery in this myometrium, this circular muscle layer, The radial artery emerges, and this radial artery gives rise to two set of artery. One is the straight artery for this basal layer, and second set of artery which is known as spiral artery, this coiled artery. That's why the name is spiral artery. And these spiral arteries, they give rise to these longer branches reaching up to this outer portion of this luminal epithelium or the surface epithelium. And these are the progesterone responsive. Progesterone responsive arteries which proliferate under the influence of the progesterone, and they form this surface lacunae, blood-filled spaces, and they are drained by the veins. So this is highly vascular. Now one by one we will discuss. This is the basal layer. This is the basal layer. You can see how this portion is richly cellular. Fibroblastic cells are more, glands are less, and vascularity can be seen. These are the vascular arteries. So arteriole here are those which are the straight arteries. Straight artery. And this is the functional here. You can see here how these are the portion of the gland. This is the lining epithelium, and this is less cell. More matrix is here, but the fibroblastic cells, they are less in number. And here we can see these are the portion of the spiral artery. Spiral artery. And here you can see this blood-filled lacunae. And this is the surface epithelium. Simple columnar epithelium, which has both cell types, cellular one and secretory. And this is the invagination, which is forming the gland. Now we will discuss when we see the uterus, whether it is in the proliferative phase or secretory phase, or even in the menstrual phase or premenstrual phase. So what we see, this is on the left is of low resolution and the right is of high resolution. So here you can see this is the portion. See here, this is the lining epithelium, clearly evident lining epithelium, and their invagination forming this gland. And the glands here are the straight tubular glands. The glands are straight tubular glands. So in the proliferative phase, which is also the initial phase, under the influence of the estrogen. So this is also known as estrogenic phase, also known as the follicular phase, because here it is under influence of these developing follicles and those which produce the estrogen. So this is under the influence of the estrogen. So in this phase, just after the menstruation is over, this is the proliferation of this lining epithelium. So at present, the lining here is very thin. The uterine mucosa, it is relatively very thin, only 0.5 mm. And then you can see how this glandular portion, they are, or even the higher resolution, you can see this glandular portion, they are straight tubular glands. Straight tubular glands. Their lumen is empty and the lumen is even narrow. Narrow. So outside they are lined by this simple columnar epithelium, and the glands, they are straight tubular glands with narrow lumen, and because Now they are proliferating, they are dividing, and they are covering this outer portion, the surface, they are forming the glands, even the fibroblastic cells, they are dividing and forming the matrix. So multiple mitotic figure may be seen. Mitotic figure means you can see the binucleated cell, you can see the mitotic figure, that means dividing nuclei inside the cells. So mitotic figure may be, and the portion is vascular. Vascular. So the vascularity has started only. The vascularity has started forming. It becomes very much proliferated, very much edematous. Now the thickness has greatly increased up to 5. Now, now post-fertilization, the embryo is transported to the uterus in 5 days, which now attaches to the uterine epithelium with the endometrial thickness and the secretory activity. They are optimal for their implantation, and they also provide the nutrition. These nutritive changes which have occurred in them. Now, this major nutrient source for the embryo before and during implantation is the uterine secretion of force, and these progesterone, they inhibit also the strong contraction of the myometrium that may also interfere with the implantation of the embryo. So that's how this luteal phase favors their implantation by countering the muscle contraction and also providing this nutritive rich environment for the implantation of the embryo. And if that doesn't occur, then because there is no implantation, then there is no secretion of this HCG, and there is no continuum of the this corpus luteum. So the corpus luteum occurrence is not then continue, they don't even form this corpus luteum occurrence to cycle, then regresses, and because of this regression the changes start occurring. So it happens in the absence of fertilization, the or the embryonic implantation, as we say, the corpus luteum regresses and the circulating level of the progesterone as well as the estrogen, they diminish. So because of the diminishing level of this progesterone mainly, initially there is a spasmodic contraction in the tunica media of these spiral arteries, and because of this spasmodic contraction there is transient hypoxia, and also because of this arterial cell, they start producing this prostaglandin, which again further produce this strong vasoconstriction and localized hypoxia. And because of this hypoxia, this hypoxic necrosis occurs in the epithelial cells, and because of that, this cell finally undergo hypoxic injury, and they start releasing this inflammatory mediator, mainly the cytokine, and because of that, there is increased vascular permeability, and that causes the migration of the leukocytes. And these leukocytes here, they release this collagenase and other matrix metalloproteinase that finally degrade the basement membrane and other extracellular components. So finally, this lining epithelium, this degrades, undergoes hypoxic necrosis. The glandular portion also, they their lining is not that clear now. They also start degrading, and this vascular portion also start degrading. So what is evident here? The clear cut outline of the cells that is lost first of all, and this there is sloughing of this mucosa. So the sloughing of this lining epithelium, sloughing of this uh, stromal cells and this glandular portion, as well as sloughing of this vascular portion. So these are sloughed off in the menstrual cycle. So if we will discuss this if we revise this in the initial phase, in this uh, proliferative phase or the follicular phase, here we can see the lining is of simple columnar epithelium which invaginates into the lamina propria, but here now the glands are only fewer and they are straight on. They are not tortuous. So glands in the proliferative or follicular phase, they are straight tubular gland with narrow lumen, and here the lining is intact. So this is the initial phase. Then the proliferation from the basal portion, the initial lining has met, and the glandular portion is also met, and they are invaginating into the lamina propria as the uterine glands. Then the late phase, under the influence of progesterone, there is a tortuosity of this gland, and their lumen they increased, and their lumen is filled with the secretion, and the stromal portion. This is highly cellular, as well as there is the edematous changes. This is puffy portion of this stoma. So finally the mucosa, this endometrial portion, it is now a fertile portion, fertile soil for the implantation of the embryo. And in the late phase, when there is absence of these hormonal portion, the regression of the corpus luteum, first of all, the surface epithelium has degraded, then the lamina propria, that is breaking, and the arterioles are breaking, and the glands, they are all breaking. So finally this functional layer, this is sloughed off, and that is finally secreted as menstrual fluid. And finally the portion of the basal layer, they only remains, and from that again when the cycle initiate, the follicle start growing, the epithelium from that under the influence of this estrogen, they proliferate and form the initial lining epithelium. So that's how the cycle continues. So that's all about the histology of the uterine tube and